This is the story of a man who's lived a dozen lifetimes and isn't done yet. From the brutal battlegrounds of the boxing ring to the bright lights of Hollywood's biggest blockbusters and deep into the pages of America's hidden history, he's faced giants, both real and fictional, and left his mark on every stage he's stood on. 6'6", undefeated in his first 16 fights. A feared heavyweight who faced legends like George Foreman and Ken Norton. But the ring wasn't big enough for his story. Hollywood called, and Jack answered. From the silent powerhouse Non in Superman 1 and 2 to gritty roles in Farewell My Lovely, King Kong, Dragnet, and beyond. A feared heavyweight contender with fists of steel. A commanding screen presence in films. Then came the pen. With his book Family Legacy, Jack stepped into the shadows of American power, exposing the ties between organized crime, politics, and his own bloodline. This is the life and legacy of Jack O'Halloran, fighter, actor, author, icon.
Mr. Jack O'Halloran with us today. Hi, Jack. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking. So, Jack, who do you introduce yourself as today? As a boxer, as an actor, or as an author?
That's a good question. Um, Probably more as an actor and a producer and a writer. And people ask me about my boxing career. I tell them I started out with professional football. I went into boxing. Then I went into acting.
You've lived multiple
And when I
lives.
get into acting, I get into writing.
So, most of
And
us know you as Nom from Superman 2. How was it? How did it feel? How was the experience being a part of such an iconic franchise?
um, it was, it was good. I was doing a picture with Gene Hackman down in Spain, March or Die, and brought us up to they brought us up to London to meet Richard Donner, and he explained the Superman script to us and everything else, uh, and they asked me if I wanted to play this character, and I said, because he was a major scientist that they lobotomized, so he was a mute. And I said, I really embrace doing that. And he said, wow. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, Jackie Gleason was a good friend of mine and won an Oscar doing a film Jigo, where he played a deaf dumb mute and used facial expression and body expression. I said, if I ever get a chance to do that, I would embrace it. I would really like to do that. And that's what worked out very well, because in Superman, the three villains, um, Terrence Stamp was a vicious general. Sarah was a man eater, and somebody had to relate to the children. So I took this big brutish guy and played him like a child, learning how to work his eyes and everything, and it worked out really well. Using body language and everything, and it worked out terrific.
But you get a lot of fans because you played a very prominent supervillain that is still
Oh,
remembered even to this
people
day.
loved it. I mean, I was
Yeah,
amazed at the response we got. In fact, first Comic Con I ever did, and a person came up and started talking to me, telling me how much he loved the character, and he's scared him to death, but he loved the character. And when I answered him, he said, "Oh my God, you can actually talk." I must have done a pretty good job. I think,
let's go even further
but
back.
yeah, it worked out. It made us iconic actors,
Mhm.
because it's an iconic film. I mean, 40 some years later, people still watch over
Exactly.
it all the time.
Now let's go like back to your boxing days, right? What was, like how did you get into boxing? What was the career like? What was the life like? And what did it
I was
teach
I
you?
was playing I was playing professional football. I was ready to play professional football. I was drafted in by the Jets, and then by the time we came eligible, because when we were playing, you couldn't play pro ball until your class graduated.
Okay.
Couldn't play until your class graduated from college. So we had to wait. We played in a semi-pro league because I left school early, and a lot of us, there was a lot of ball players did the same thing, and we played in a league in the East Coast to keep your levels up and everything until it's time to go and play. But you were signed as a pro team, so you're considered a professional. And when I was getting ready to play down in Philadelphia, they sold the team to a guy named Jerry Wallman, and he brought a coach in called Joe Q. Harrick, who traded a championship football team away. I said, wow, now he had just won the title. And I said to some friends of mine in Philadelphia, I could beat that guy. So I got put in a gym and I started working out, and I couldn't box amateur, so I had to just box professional. And it
How long
started
did
out
you
very
take for
well.
training? The
Pardon?
training. How long did it take for you to train for that specific fight?
About 4 or 5 months,
Okay.
because I lost a lot of weight. I was when I was playing ball, I was like 285, but I ran a 4.640, so I had a lot of speed. And I came down to 235, 230 for boxing, and but it worked out really well. I When I had my first 17 fights, I think I was undefeated, and I went to get a physical. The doctor said to me, you got a disease called acromegaly, kid, and you shouldn't be boxing at all. How do you even get in the ring? Because acromegaly is a
Mhm.
pituitary disease, and it is a tumor of the pituitary, and it causes gigantism and makes people depressed, and it's a weird disease. If your body's producing 10% growth hormone, mine was producing 250.
Oh my God.
So it's your skeleton factor gets bigger. It's just so they couldn't believe what. But I said, it's my day job. I like it. I'm going to continue doing it. Well, you shouldn't be doing it. I said, well, good. So I went on and I beat a lot of contenders and I was ranked in the top 10 for several years. And Ali and I were signed to fight 4 times. It just never came off. The I'm in the Hall of Fame, and it's worked out pretty well. But when I retired
Inspirational.
from that, they came to me. They actually came to me when I was boxing to do The Great White Hope with James Earl Jones in the film. The first film was Steve McQueen was doing Thomas Crown Affair up in Boston, and that was in '67. And he and I became good friends, and he said, "Wow, man, I want you to come down and get it. I'll put you in a movie. Come back to Hollywood. We'll have a great time." I said, I'm looking to fight Muhammad Ali, and you want me to quit boxing? I don't think so. So I passed. And then when I turned down the Great White Hope, because they wanted me to go to Spain for 6 months, and I was on the verge of an Ali contract, and I said, they said, McQueen called me on the phone. He said, what do we have to do to get you into Hollywood? And, so I
Muhammad Ali
turned
versus
down the
Jack
pictures. And
O'Halloran. That would have
when
been
I
a show.
retired in '76, I did 75. They came to me to do a picture of Farewell My Lovely with Robert Mitchum. And I had an agent because I was doing commercials when I was California heavyweight champion. And my agent
Inspirational.
said, you should do this picture, Jack. So I did. Mitchum and I got on like a house on fire. And that launched my career.
Inspirational. Very inspirational.
We did King Kong and just
Yeah,
went from picture to picture. King Kong and March or Die. Then we did Dragnet. We did Superman 1 and 2. It turned out pretty well.
definitely did. You
And then
wrote
I
the
wrote a
book.
book.
Yeah,
I wrote a
family
book called
legacy. I
Family
was coming
Legacy.
to that. It was really personal to you. Like, what made you tell your story to the world?
Well, it's time that people were told the truth about
Hmm.
certain things. There's been so many theories and so many things. When I was there, I lived this thing. This is not something that I heard stories about. These are things that I watched change. The transition changed from one one particular subject matter to another. And my father was a very famous mafioso, Albert Anastasia, and he was against the drug business, and he controlled the harbors of New York and most of the major cities in America. And he said, "We're not bringing that stuff in on my watch." And they begged him, "Albert, it's only business." And Genovese wanted the drug business badly, and they thought there was a lot of money in it. And he said, "If we touch it, our children will touch it. It'll be the downfall of the families." And he was right on the money. It wasn't wrong. So they assassinated him, and then they knew they made a bad mistake because he was the glue that held them together. And when they got into the drug business, it was the worst thing they ever did because the government didn't want them in it. The government allowed the bookmaking, allowed gambling, allowed a lot of things that they did, but it wouldn't tolerate them being in the drug business because they were in the drug business. So they didn't. And George Bush was partners with Noriega out of Panama. So it just was confliction of things back and forth, and people got killed, and this one and that one, and it was just and it's still a very sloppy business.
There
Forward.
are a lot of secrets that the book unfolds. And like, tell me, what did you think of, when you were working with us to convert this into a game? Like, how did
Well,
you
there's so many
think of it?
stories
Yeah.
to be told. There's so many stories to be told from every city in the United States, from the connections in Europe,
Mhm.
you know, and in the book we tell the truth about the Kennedy assassination, which no one's ever told the truth about, and we did that, and got two more books coming out, and we're just going to continue the story and bring it to modern day where we're at. And there's a lot of things that have changed, some for the good and some for the bad, and it's time that people were, the newspapers and the news, they when you watch the news on television at night, they don't tell you the truth. They tell you what they want to tell you, you know, and it's newspapers never tell the real story about things that happened and why they happened. Things are glossed over or shoved around, and so it's time to set a lot of things straight. There's a few people that want to get involved in this, that want to tell their version of the truth as well, that were there, that actually lived through the times, and that's what's necessary.